Every day it's a getting closer, going faster than a roller coaster. Love like yours will surely come my way. Hey, hey, it's GeniusPieTrap, not Buddy Holly, as you probably thought from my amazing singing. This is the second episode of my show, GeniusPieTrap, Runnin' His Trap. Have to give a big shout out to Chitty Took. Chitty, C-H-I-D-I, I hope that's how you say your name, which I love. I love the name Chitty. I hope that actually is your real name, because that name is badass. I like it. Chitty made the suggestion, running my trap. I loved it, and that's what it's going to change to. So, ding, 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 ding. Chitty, you are a motherfucking winner. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Right now, you're looking at the free-to-play game Brawlhalla, which is currently on Steam, currently in beta, but eventually this is going to be free to play. Lot of fun. As you can tell, it definitely has a Smash Brothers vibe to it. Very similar. As of now, all the heroes are unlocked, so you get to try every one of them, but eventually it's going to go into that rotating thing where only, say, maybe 2 characters are available for free, and the other ones you have to unlock. Kind of like what Dota does and Dirty Bomb and a bunch of games are trying to do. An excellent way to handle free-to-play. If you want more characters, you can buy them. Hopefully, they will be reasonably priced. Indie developers, please take note of this game. This is how you do a successful multiplayer game. The market is filled, absolutely flooded with all these indie multiplayer games that have nobody playing them. Nobody wants to buy them because nobody is playing them. So instead of letting everybody play all at once and the servers being flooded and it doesn't work, they are taking their time. Also, the game runs absolutely fantastic. There's no lag, it just works perfectly fine. A great start to, hopefully we'll have a great audience. A lot of people are playing it already. I expect big things from this game. I started out the episode like I normally do with a song or an impersonation, and it was Buddy Holly's Everyday song, the roller coaster song, and I've had that song stuck in my head all day long, mainly because there's a trailer that's been playing in the front of a lot of YouTube videos, including mine, called The Visit. It's a horror movie. The trailer starts out with this song playing and showing these 2 young kids, a brother and a sister. They're maybe 9 and 14 or something like that. And they're gonna go stay at Grandma and Grandpa's house, and everything's great, and they're having a great time, and they're laughing and helping out Grandpa and baking with Grandma, and there's love and all this great stuff. And they go to bed, wake up to find that Grandma is a crazy lunatic, like just half naked, scratching at the door, and she's talking gibberish, and Grandpa's got a shotgun, and it turns into this scary horror movie. Which I probably won't see. I have very fond memories of my grandparents, for sure. I can't stomach, that they would turn into some evil lunatics or anything like that. So I thought I'd tell you about my 3 grandmas. But first, I just quick wanted to talk about Spooky's House of Jump Scares. This is also another free game, but not really free to play because you just basically get the whole game. It's single player. They're not asking for anything. The game is definitely worth the price of free. Not much more than that. I don't know how much I'd pay for it, but definitely worth the price of free. Definitely worth checking out. It starts out as a very, very cute horror game. I mean, so cute that, say, a 6-year-old could play it and not have nightmares. Outrageously over-the-top cute. And you're going through all these floors or doorways, rooms I should say. There's 1,000 rooms. You're going through all these 1,000 rooms. And as you're going, it gets spookier, just a little bit, and a little bit spookier, and it throws in a little bit, and then pretty soon it gets dark, and pretty soon it just gets twisted, and blood, and all these crazy things. But it's not that good, but yet you kind of just want to play it for that little, to see what's going to happen next. The rooms repeat themselves. a lot of the same content over and over, but every once in a great while, every so many rooms, it'll throw in something a little bit different. So I thought I'd tell you guys about my 3 grandmas. Notice I say 3 grandmas, most people only have 2. I have 3 because one is a step grandma. My grandparents got divorced before I was even born. This was at a time when divorces didn't happen very often. But anyway, my step grandma, she's this little old lady. And when I say little old lady, I know everyone has a little old lady of a grandma, but she is truly a little old lady. I'm talking, she can't weigh any more than 75 pounds. She's all hunched over, she's got glasses, stereotypical little old lady. Now, make no mistake about it though, this 75-pound little old lady more than likely might be able to whoop your ass. I'm not even joking. She is so unbelievably old school. She comes from an era when tough is tough, where you needed to be tough just to wake up in the morning. She's got a cold, she's taking a shot of whiskey. She's on her roof, she shouldn't even be climbing a ladder. She's driving around, she's tending a garden, she's picking crops, she's got a part-time job cleaning houses. She's just non-stop. You do not get in her way, she will run you over. There's work to be done, man. I've never seen her like take a break. If she's not working, she's cooking and baking and canning and all this like old-timey stuff, which is great. In fact, I believe that she is like the end of an era, especially here in America, where people like her are gonna move on and pass on, and there's gonna be no one to take her spot. Alright, before I talk to you about grandma number 2, this is Savage Lands. Not a lot to say about this. This is another survival craft game. This has definitely more of a Skyrim, Elder Scrolls type feel. The developers are really great on this game. They constantly are communicating to people in the Steam forums. They're constantly updating it. I think it's got a really great future. They promise to add magic to it. I really like the graphics. It's definitely probably actually one of my favorite Survivor Craft games. I prefer it over a lot of the other ones for sure. I know this is one of my real grandmas, okay? Blood relation grandma. Though I consider the other one still a grandma. She is known as Crazy Grandma. Crazy is a weird word, because crazy can mean a lot of different things. So when I say crazy, I don't mean, oh my god, grandma just drank a bunch of tequila and now she's riding wheelies on her motorcycle. I also don't mean, oh my god, grandma's crazy, she might hurt someone, like we might have seen in the Visit trailer, that crazy grandma. Nothing like that. She's not gonna ever hurt anyone. I mean, grandma is crazy and she just does super off-the-wall things, says off-the-wall things. Alright, real quick story just to get my point across when I'm saying crazy here. I'm visiting her at her house and I'm going, and she's walking me out to my car, and my car's parked into the street, and she's kind of chatting, and I noticed something on the gutter of the road. It's what appears to be a dead animal, but it has no fur or no hair or anything like that. And here in Wisconsin, pretty much every animal has fur unless it's a snake. But I can see it looks like a snake with legs, right? And I'm looking at it, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm like, finally I interrupt her. I'm like, what is that thing? Because it's like 1.5 feet long. Here, she said it was the neighbor kid's lizard. So we don't have any reptiles that run around free in Wisconsin, okay? But apparently, the poor neighbor kid had his pet iguana escape from his house. And he went around to all the neighbors and told them what happened. And if you see the pet iguana, please let him know so he can get his pet back that I'm sure he loved. Well, my grandma found this thing in her garden eating her tomatoes or carrots or something, I don't know. So instead of getting the neighbor kid, who she knew, she instead took a broom and beat the shit out of this giant lizard. Threw it out into the street. So I'm like, Grandma, why on earth would you beat the shit out of this poor little kid's lizard? This poor kid's little pet. I mean, he's got to be heartbroken. Her reply was something to the effect of she couldn't risk this wild animal getting out and running the streets again and possibly getting back into her garden to eat her plants. You know, and the more I think about it, she's damn protective of her garden, because I also remember going over there one time and talking to her in her backyard, and I hear these noises coming from like one of those big trash cans with the lids on it. And I can hear noises coming out of there, and finally I open it up, and here is a bunch of baby rabbits. These little tiny baby cute rabbits. Holy crap, what are these rabbits doing in here? And apparently she found them in her garden and just was going to throw them away. She didn't like kill them or anything like that, but who does that? And she does and says a lot of really off the wall things. But she's my grandma. I love her to death. You can't pick them, you know, you're born with them. Next game is Among the Sleep. This is a horror game where you're a little toddler, a 2-year-old. Not the normal horror game with a lot of blood and violence and gore or anything like that, but I'm having fun with it. I liked it a lot. I think it's worth checking out. Alright, and that leaves us with the third grandma. I spent a very, very large portion of my childhood over at her house. Because of that reason, very close to her. Seriously, one of the greatest grandmas ever. She was the greatest grandma ever. I will say it, she was the greatest grandma ever. Now, she wasn't the greatest grandma because she made the best cookies, or she made the best pies, or she cooked the best lasagna, anything like that. In fact, she really didn't cook at all. Looking back at it, she had maybe 2 things that she made. She made potato chip dip and a salad, like a lettuce salad with bananas. That's it. Pretty much anything else, like, we had to fend for ourselves. As a kid, I would make myself a bowl of cereal. I remember a lot of graham cracker cereal. I'd eat graham cracker cereal at her house. Or toast, or make myself a sandwich. So that's not why she was the greatest grandma. It wasn't because she knew how to knit things and sew things and made me hats. She didn't do anything like that. In fact, my grandma really didn't do a lot of anything. Any activities at all. Barely left the house. She would leave the house to go to church, and she'd go grocery shopping. A lot of times her and my grandpa would go on a ride. They would just drive around through the country and look at the trees and see what animals they could find. But she never really got out of that truck. In fact, she never had a job her whole life. She never even had her driver's license. That's just the way she lived her life. The reason she was the greatest grandma is she was absolutely just so full of love. If you met her for a half of an hour, you would just simply call her Grandma Rosie, because she was a grandma. That's like what she was born to do, was to be a grandma. She had so much love that you would go there and you would instantaneously feel at home. So now, after my grandpa passed away, it just got worse with her not leaving the house. And for a while she would leave the house a little bit, and then it was pretty much just to go to church, and that was the only time she left the house, was to go to church. And she pretty much watched, through her whole life, just really watched the world go by her front door. Now, because of so little activity in her life, she was a pretty large woman, and she fell down, hurt her ankle. Because of her age and because of her lack of activity, that ankle just wouldn't heal, and she couldn't take care of herself anymore. So we put her in a old folks home. I would go to visit her all the time, as much as I possibly could. So in the old folks home, she's doing rehabilitation, but it's just not working, and after doing some x-rays or something like this, they basically discover she's got cancer. Because of her age and because of her physical condition, they kind of tell us that it's not good, and she really doesn't have that much long to live. Chemotherapy and radiation treatments. Now, they're not sure that it's going to work, for one. They're not sure that she would even be able to survive them. And after it was done, it was good results. The cancer kind of seemed to be going away. Everything seems great, except for it took a toll on her body this time. It really did, where it left open wounds and from healing, and it got infected. And they couldn't control the infection, and it spread throughout her body. The doctors told us that she has 2 to 4 weeks to live. It was super hard to swallow. I just couldn't even wrap my brain around it. Because you would see this person that she looked great, she looked fine. So I decided that I just wasn't going to believe the doctors. 2 weeks go by, she's fine. 4 weeks go by, she's fine. 2 months go by, she's fine. She's fine. It's like she beat the thing, but she still has these wounds. She still has this infection, but she's still going strong. She beat the doctors once again. About 6 months later, after this, I get a phone call. This is late at night, and it's my dad. Which was very not like him to call at that hour of the night. And so I kind of knew something was up, so I answer it. And he said, she's not doing well. They don't think she's going to make it through the night. So I go down to the old folks' home where she's at. She is laying in her bed, breathing, just very shallow breathing. Very, very shallow breathing. They have some oxygen hooked up to her nose. That's it. I mean, she's just kind of like in a coma. And it was all of a sudden thing. She had visitors earlier in the day. They talked to her. She seemed great. And all of a sudden, just like that, just like that, she kind of slipped into this. She was out of it. She slipped into this coma, this whatever. And here now they're telling us that she's probably not going to make it through the night. So I stay there the whole night. I'm up all night. Don't go to sleep. And she just had these really shallow breaths. These really shallow breaths. That I so many times I was like, oh, this is going to be the last one. This is going to be her last breath. And she just kept on going. So we make it to next morning. She wasn't supposed to make it to next morning, but she did it. She pretty much would do anything to prove the doctors wrong, I think. And that's kind of how she was. She would didn't want anyone to tell her what to do, how to live her life. She was going to decide how these things went. And all of a sudden, the telephone rings. It rings once, it rings twice, I pick it up, and I'm going to hit the button, and I notice, like, her eyes kind of shuddering, and all of a sudden they pop open. They just pop open, and nobody's paying attention to her because there was really no reason to just stare at her. And I'm like, I don't even know what to say. I walk over to her, and she looks at me, and I don't even know what to say. Like, right? She's supposed to be on her deathbed. She's supposed to die. And she starts tugging at the oxygen hoses that are going into her nose. And she just rips them off. And I'm like, well, Grandma, I think they want those on there. And she's like, why? Nurse comes and kind of tells us that, well, those things happen once in a while. And puts the oxygen tubes back on her nose and leaves. She woke up, I don't know how many times she'd wake up. I could wake her up. I would just start talking to her and she'd wake her eyes, open her eyes, and she would talk. It was like almost like she's getting better. They offered her medicine because they knew she had to be in pain. She didn't want any medicine. She didn't want anything to ease the pain. No. And she didn't want that oxygen on her. Get that off of here. She didn't want the oxygen. She didn't need no oxygen. Now, a couple days later, she's still there. She's still at the old folks' home. Still alive. She's in and out of this deep sleep. And finally, I need to break the pace, right? I need to just get out of there because it's driving me batty. I'm tired and I just need to get out. After telling me again, she's like, honey, I know you have things to do. Why don't you go home? Grandma's just gonna get some sleep. I'm like, okay. I am gonna go home. I am gonna go get some sleep. And I was gonna come back at like 1 o'clock in the morning to relieve my uncle who was gonna stay there. I decided to go home, catch a couple hours of sleep. I woke up, went out, got something to eat. As I'm sitting there, my cell phone rings, and I see it's my brother. I answer it, and he just simply says, Grandma passed. I don't even know what to do at this point. I'm at this restaurant, And part of me just wants to lose my mind. When I get into situations like that, I go through this roller coaster of emotions. We're back to the roller coaster song, okay? I go through this roller coaster of emotions from sad, depression, to rage. I'll get really mad, like unfair, to denial that it even happened. The one time I go out and leave is when she left. I didn't want to leave her ever. At any point did I ever want to leave her side, because that's my grandma. She was always there for me. Always. No matter what I did, I was always her grandson. It wouldn't have mattered what I did. It wouldn't have mattered how bad I acted or anything like that. She always had unconditional love for all of her, everybody, basically. Anyone she knew, she was like that. I asked my brother what happened. He said that it wasn't going good, it wasn't looking good. The nurses came. Every time the nurses came, they kind of kicked us out because they were doing their thing, and we'd come back into the room. And he said the nurses came and kicked him out, him and my uncle out. They gave him 20 minutes or something like that, and when they came back, she was gone. She didn't want us to leave because she needed her sleep, or because she thought she wasn't entertaining us. I think she just needed her time to go. It was such a drawn out thing. And I really think she was just waiting to be alone to take that time to leave. This was last week when this all happened. At the funeral, I was one of the pallbearers. Which, if you don't know what a pallbearer is, it's the person that holds the casket, that helps guide the casket or carries the casket. There was me and my brother, along with 6 other pallbearers. Me and my brother were the only ones that were actually blood related to my grandma. All other 6 were not related to her at all. Not by blood. Were not related to her at all. But every single one of them called her grandma. Every single one. That's just who she was. And after the funeral, a family friend, she gives me a big hug. And she says, "Thank you for sharing your grandma with me." Again, she was someone that called her grandma too. And I told her she was just as much your grandma as she was my grandma. When people die or they move on, I like to think that everyone wants to leave something behind. Something that they did to change somebody or change the world or change anything. Do anything for the future. That when you permanently change. And that's what my grandma did. I want to be just a good person, because she was a good person. She showed me how much people loved her, and I want a little piece of that. I want to be like her. So sorry to leave this on a sad note, you guys. I didn't intend to at all, but thank you guys for kind of being my therapy here, because that was a lot of shit that I just needed to get out of my chest, and I feel better. I feel better, and I'm gonna be